Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Lana Labonte, and I am here to support, uplift, inspire, and hopefully that empowers you to be the best version you are meant to be of you, because there's only one you. Welcome for the continued reading of The Invitation by Oriah Mountain Dreamer, and we are on Chapter 6, Betrayal. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. We often look for someone we can trust more than we trust ourselves. Perhaps this is because we know how often we betray ourselves. Years ago, when a close friend lied about me to a mutual teacher, I learned something about how to tell who was trustworthy. This friend was a good and kind woman, but often betrayed herself, ignoring her own feelings to accommodate the wishes of others, abandoning her creative work to take care of a series of alcoholic men in her life. Her inability to be true to herself is what made her untrustworthy, unable to tell the truth when it might bring disapproval from an authority figure. I suddenly realized that the people in my life who are the most trustworthy, those who tell the truth, even when the truth is hard, are not those who always keep their agreements with me. Those who can be faithless, who can bear the responsibility of breaking an agreement with someone when the alternative is to betray themselves, are trustworthy. As the original version of The Invitation was copied and shared by people all over the world, the most frequent change made to it was to substitute the word faithful for the word faithless. I received phone calls and letters asking, sometimes demanding, that I explain my use of the word faithless. People didn't like it. It made them uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable when someone perceives us as breaking faith with past promises. Yet if we live fully, it is inevitable that this will sometimes happen. Because change is inevitable, and commitments, if they are to remain vital, must be remade and renewed. Often we protect ourselves from the knowledge of broken promises by pretending that nothing has changed. My second husband and I pretended not to notice that it had been years since he had put his hand on the small of my back as I stood working at the kitchen counter, so we could stand close, breathing together for just a moment. We did not allow ourselves to wonder why I no longer touched his face softly and smiled into his eyes after we made love. We did not acknowledge that agreements made to share what mattered, to guard each other's solitude, to be kind to each other, had been broken 1,000 times. Unconsciously, we make these silent bargains everywhere, in families, spiritual communities, and business organizations. Devotees agree to bury their knowledge of the Guru's humanness, pretend not to see how trust has been violated, ideals abandoned. Members of congregation do not talk about the times in their lives when they cannot find their faith but continue to attend services and profess what they do not feel. For years I worked in a social service agency where the commitment to women's health was betrayed daily by the implicit agreement that a good staff person was one who would sacrifice their own health to do the work. We betray ourselves when we deny the change that terrifies us, when we maintain the external illusion that all remains the same. If someone names the betrayal, everything begins to unravel. When our denial of what has happened is so deep as to seem complete, the shock of revelation is overwhelming. We feel broadsided, stunned, broken. When I told my first husband I was leaving, he didn't believe me. He could hardly be blamed. Neither one of us had acknowledged that his violence was a betrayal of our marriage. We wanted to believe that things could stay the same, and we had made a silent agreement to pretend they were. He looked at me in all sincerity, said, "You can't leave. We're married. You're my wife." And I said, "Watch me." Leaving, breaking my promise, betraying his trust that no matter what happened, I would not leave, this cost me. Something inside of me was damaged as I broke faith with our belief in unconditional commitment. Rationally, I can argue as well as anyone that his violence nullified our agreement, and I would never advocate that a man or a woman stay where their body or soul is at risk. I have never been sorry I left, but none of this changes the fact that when we break an agreement, we are deeply affected, wounding ourselves even as we wound another. When we acknowledge betrayal and take responsibility for our decisions to break agreements, for our knowledge that someone has broken an agreement with us, we ache with the anticipated loss of innocence. To trust again, we must be willing to face the shadow of innocence, the deliberate naïveté that clings to denial and rejects the truth as too hard. It has taken many years for me to live consciously with the truth about my marriage, that I did betray my promise to my husband, justified in the minds of many or not, that the abuse in that marriage made me wary of trusting again, unsure of my own ability to judge when it's okay to trust or when I am really at risk and should leave. I must be willing to live with all of this self-knowledge if I want to be able to love fully again. Pretending that we are not betrayed or that we are not betraying another may seem to make the betrayal easier to bear at the time, but learning to live with the truth is what opens the door to the wisdom required to trust and be worthy of trust again. Years ago, counseling a woman whose husband had begun a relationship with another woman during their marriage and consequently left, I heard beneath her understandable rage the story of a man unable to face his own need to change past agreements. When he finally left, he told her that for 2 years before the breakup, each night returning home from work, he had driven around the block for 10 to 15 minutes before he had been able to pull into the driveway. In this same period, much to her surprise, he had insisted on cooking all the dinners when he arrived home. It was only as he left that he told her he had done this because he literally had been unable to swallow food that she prepared. If we cannot live with our need to renew agreements we have made, we break the only promise we really owe each other, to be truthful. This means finding both the courage to be truthful with ourselves and a way to live with how our actions affect others, even when there is no ill intent and no one to blame. Sitting in my living room, I reach out and hold Roger's hand as he struggles to tell me what he feels he must do. His wife, Catherine, is a close friend of mine. 5 years ago, when Catherine was 40, an aneurysm in her brain burst, leaving her mentally and physically disabled. She now moves slowly with the aid of a cane. She must have someone in attendance 24 hours a day. She cannot drive or shop or cook or clean for herself. She still forgets where she is and what has happened to her. In many ways, she is no longer, nor will she ever be, wife to Roger, although she calls him her beloved and has clearly not forgotten their love. Roger has been with Catherine every step of the way and has only recently arranged for her to live in a group home, giving him some small freedom from making endless arrangements for a succession of daily caregivers. Watching them together simultaneously lifts and breaks my heart. With infinite patience and tenderness, Roger has dealt with the tragedy that has struck both of their lives, taking care of Catherine, seeing to all the medical and logistical details while making a living. All of this while grieving for the lover and partner he knew and letting go of their dreams for a home and children. And all of this has taken its toll. Lately, each time I see him, Roger looks more tired and drawn, pushed to some kind of breaking point. I wonder how long he can continue with things as they are. On one level, it does not surprise me that he sits across from me now, barely able to speak, and says, I need to ask Catherine for a divorce. I support him, and I ache for Catherine. This marriage, as much as it is not the partnership it was, is the last vestige of the life that was taken from her. Their love for each other has never died, and Roger has never neglected caring for Catherine, even when he met and fell in love with another woman. A wonderful woman who is torn between her love for Roger, which supports him in his commitment to Catherine, and her own needs and desires for a home and family. She has not asked him to divorce Catherine. She does not ask him to stop loving Catherine or making sure she is taken care of. And yet she wants, as Roger does, to create a marriage of deep commitment together. There is no place for this story in our culture, no easy and acceptable way to acknowledge the man who loves and cares for his disabled wife while loving and living with another woman with whom he wants the full and committed relationship of husband and wife. There is no point in saying that there should be a place for this story, that in another time or culture there might have been. The individuals involved and their friends and families are part of this culture here and now. Most important, there is no place for this story within Roger, and trying to live it is tearing him apart. It may well result in a breakdown from which he cannot recover. We sit and cry together. There is no one to blame. Roger speaks in a voice choked with emotion. I just keep thinking. He pauses to swallow and struggles to continue, of what people say. His voice rises in a wail of grief, of how people say that men don't stay. There is no easy solution. To survive, to live, Roger must break faith with the promise he had made to Catherine years ago. And if he is to love and trust again, he must find a way to hold himself in his own heart as he does so. And this means finding a place in his heart for all the men and women who don't stay, who leave the job, the community, the convent, the teacher, the organization, the spouse, to save their lives, all those who are seen by some as faithless. We have all been the betrayer and the betrayed. If we cannot acknowledge this, we will find ourselves harsh and unforgiving, unable to grieve for the times we have betrayed ourselves. Only one man has spoken in judgment of Roger's choice. A relative of Catherine's, he told Roger angrily, "You play the hand you're dealt." I wonder what agreements this man has not allowed himself to break, where he has paid too high a price, has betrayed his own soul in an attempt to keep things the same, to avoid the discomfort of being seen as faithless. When an agreement that is important to us is broken, we feel hurt and angry. And if an agreement is broken but we or others pretend that it has not been violated, we learn to distrust ourselves or those others when the truth is revealed. The real damage of betrayal is in the lies we tell one another and ourselves, the lies that cause us to lose faith in our ability to recognize and act on the truth. Part of being trustworthy is being able to recognize when our perceptions and judgments are untrustworthy, and to cultivate a community that can support and guide us in those times. Years ago, when I was deeply and blindly in love, the man I was with wanted me to give him my credit card. I was charmed, mesmerized by his arguments, convinced by his need. But on the way out of the house to go to the bank, I paused for 1 second and called my friend Ingrid. Telling her what I was about to do, I asked, "What do you think? Does this sound okay to you?" Ingrid paused for a moment and then spoke slowly. "Well, I don't know. But I can tell you that you don't sound like yourself. So don't do anything right away. Wait. See how you feel tomorrow. You can always go then. You just don't sound like yourself." Wise woman, my friend Ingrid. Had she said, "Are you crazy? This man is probably trying to dupe you. Tell him to forget it. I probably would have become defensive and done it anyway. So she stuck to what she did know. I did not sound like myself, so it was an unwise moment to make this kind of decision. I knew enough about myself to know that I was most untrustworthy in the kind of relationship I had with this man. So following her advice, I waited. By the next day, feeling more myself, I wisely decided not to give him my credit card. Being trustworthy, not betraying ourselves, is, in part, about recognizing moments or situations when we are likely to be untrustworthy and seeking the counsel of people who love us and are willing and able to be honest with us. This may mean that we will sometimes hear things we do not want to hear. It almost always means slowing things down a little and considering that we may be wrong, that we may not be trustworthy in that moment. Refusing to betray ourselves is not a license to break agreements on a whim, to disregard the very real repercussions of our actions on others. The hard part, the place where we hope wisdom will find us, is in deciding where and when we must break a promise to be true to ourselves. We must weigh the cost of our soul if we keep our agreement. The cost to that which is essential to who we are against the cost to others if the agreement is broken. This is especially true when those with whom we have made agreements are dependent upon us. I could not say that a parent should never leave his or her child, but to break the agreement to be responsible for those we bring into this world while they are young could be justified only if it were necessary in a spiritual or physical life or death situation. As in Roger's situation, these are the impossible choices we may be required to make. I cannot judge someone else's struggle with his or her unique choices. Sometimes we may decide to make a sacrifice for another. Ask any parent about the small daily sacrifices. Decisions that cost us something important that are made for love can be the soul's choice. My best friend Linda has been there for me, and I for her, for 19 years. She was present at the birth of my sons. I stayed close to her during the death of her mother. She had promised not to leave the city where I am bound by my son's need for both mother and father. But when she was diagnosed with cancer, I told her to go, to leave for the mountains and the ocean, the places that called to her, where her body and soul could be healed. I asked her to break her promise to stay. I asked her to run toward life, even though it took her away from me. These are the choices we make, consciously or unconsciously, and yet ultimately, if we can be still enough with what is, we can find the place the Native Americans called Choi Takama, the place of choiceless awareness, the place where it is clear which choice is a choice for life, where we can make no other. Sometimes to choose life, we must break agreements. Sometimes we must keep them, although they are hard to keep. Tell me, can you do this? Can you make the choice that's for life, even when that choice is hard? When doing so means others will see you as faithless? Can you make the choice without putting yourself or the other person, no matter who is the betrayed, who is the betrayer in this moment, out of your heart? This is what I want to know. This is what I want us to learn together, to teach each other in a way we hold each other when the choices are hard. Powerful betrayal. And it all starts within. Meditation for discernment. Sit or lie down in a comfortable position and bring your attention to your breath, following each inhalation and exhalation as it moves in and out of your body. With each exhalation, let go. Let any places in your body where you are holding on simply dissolve with the exhalation. If thoughts come in, let them slide away like pearls on silk, and bring your attention back to your breath. Do this for a few minutes, stilling your mind, relaxing your body. Now, imagine yourself in your mind's eye, alone in the center of a circle. It may be a circle of light or fire. It may be a circle marked by a fence of wood or stone, or a moat of water, or a grove of trees. In some form, see yourself standing alone, surrounded by that which marks the boundary of your personal circle. Somewhere in that circle, there is an opening, a gateway of some sort through which others can enter and leave your circle. And at this opening, there is a guardian. See the figure that stands at the gateway to your circle. It may be a person or an animal. Let your imagination show you your guardian. Now, imagine that there are people you know approaching the opening in your circle. As they approach, one at a time, the guardian at the gate will let you know in some way if they should come into your circle. The guardian may indicate this by a gesture, a word, or a body sensation that you receive. Wait for it. The guardian may indicate that some can come and go at will, while others can enter only at certain times and for limited stays. Spend some time learning what the guardian has to show you about the people or situations in your life. Situations may be exemplified by symbolic figures. A colleague who approaches not as an individual, but as the symbol for a specific work situation. Just watch what happens with as little judgment as possible, beginning with uncontroversial individuals or situations, although there may be some surprises here, and progressing to those that have more ambiguity. Let your imagination flow. Later, you can analyze and examine what you receive. When you feel you have all you are able to take in, thank the guardian and bring yourself back to an awareness of your breath and your body, wiggling your fingers and toes and being present. And that concludes Chapter 6, The Betrayal, in the Invitation. See you in the next chapter.